This video is to show some examples of how to estimate the area and perimeter of rectangles and triangles. So that's a pretty long title, but let's start with an example that's familiar to us. So let's say we have an 8.5 inch by 11 inch standard sheet of paper. So if I'm trying to estimate the area, and it's funny when you say 8.5 by 11, when you're just doing the shorthand notation for how to say what kind of paper you have, they use the multiplication symbol to say that, and I don't know why that's true. I don't know the history of that, but really, as we know, the area of any rectangle is the length times the width, and that's inherent in how you say what the dimensions of this rectangle is. Alright, so I'm trying to estimate it, and so I want to look at what the largest place value of each of these numbers is, or the most significant digit, and in the 8.5 it's the ones place, and because half is halfway, we round up, and in the next one we're rounding to the nearest 10, and the next digit is a 1, and so we're going to round down, and we see that nice and easy, as it's supposed to be when we're estimating a product, when we're estimating a multiplication problem. Once you've done the rounding, it's supposed to be really easy to do, and so 9 times 10, that's 90, and the units are square inches. And of course you could write that as square inches, or square inches, or there's a bunch of ways to write the units. I don't know, I'm more used to inch with an exponent 2 on it, but whatever you're comfortable with. So there's the area. For the perimeter, I'm going to go ahead and draw this sheet of paper. That's 8.5 by 11. Because we have to remember that as a rectangle, it's got 4 sides. And and look at me. So let's see, what's the easiest way to back up? I just wrote the wrong dimensions on the long side and the short side. So if anybody was laughing as I did any of that, let me see if I can just back up. Okay, let's try again. Let's do an 8.5 by 11. And as I was trying to say, I'm not going to redo this video, so too bad if that was convoluted, making that mistake, but I was pretty far into the video, so I'm just going to keep going. So an 8.5 by 11 has 4 sides, so pairs of sides are equal length, but for perimeter I still have to total 2 11s with 2 8.5s. And when you're adding, you're deciding whether you're going to do technique 1 or technique 2. I'm going to go ahead and do technique 1. And so with technique 1, I'm going to round everything to the nearest, oops, that didn't work, to the nearest 10. And so the 8.5s have a 0 in the tens place, but in any case, the 1 makes 11 round down to 10, both cases, and the 8 rounds up to 10 in both cases. So add this all together, and you get 40 inches for the perimeter. So once again, the area is 90 square inches in the estimate, and the perimeter, that looks like 140, but that's just the box of the answer, is 40 inches. Alright, so next I want to do an example of a triangle, because often triangles can be harder to work with than rectangles. And let me just remind you that if you had a 2 by 3, the reason that's 6, let's say these are inches again, the reason that's 6 square inches is because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and what we're saying is if we cut that area in half and just look at half of it, the area of that triangle is a half of 6, or 3 square inches. Oops. 3 square inches. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take an example of a right triangle, and right triangle just means it's a right angle as one of its angles. And I'm going to say that that is 36, I'm going to use centimeters this time, 36 centimeters on that side, 48 centimeters on that side, and 60 centimeters on that side. Then, honestly, in figuring out this area over on this other example, we didn't need to know the length of that diagonal. We really didn't. So when I'm doing area, I kind of ignore that 60, and I just look at a 36 by 48 rectangle cut in half. So if I'm trying to figure out the area, it's a 36 by 48 cut in half divided by 2. So when I'm estimating, I say 36 is approximately 40, 48 is approximately 50. We'll need to cut that in half in just a second. But 40 times 50, 4 times 5 is 20, and then there's 2 zeros after that. So don't be confused by the only 2 zeros, and here there are 3 in the answer, but that's because 4 times 5 is 20 and has a 0 by itself, and then we have to attach the last 2 zeros. But cut in half, that's 1,000. And the units, because we're doing area, square centimeters. So now finally the perimeter, and I'll draw the rectangle, I'll draw the triangle again. It's 36, 48, and 60. And perimeter, I got to add up all 3 sides, so 36, 48, and 60. And technique 1 and technique 2, you're going to round to the nearest 10 in either case, because all 3 of the numbers, big, small, and medium, all end up in the tens place. Let me erase, sorry. Kind of underlined both decimal places in that number. So we're going to round to the nearest 10. So 36, the 6 makes that 40, 48, the 8 makes that 50, and 60 is already a nice round number. And so let's see, 6 plus 4 is 10, another 5 is 15, and the units are centimeters. I think this is my longest video so far. Sorry for the length.